Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello, listeners. This is your host, Andy Curry. Today, I have with me on the line Mara Woloshin, who has been speaking professionally for 17 years. Yes, folks, 17 years. The content she speaks on is all based around the focus of how to get sales. And the subtopics from under that are the current marketing and public relations trends, parts on baby boomers and the aging population. She is an expert on Medicare and Medicaid. And again, it all focuses on how to get sales. She speaks primarily in the U.S. She is based out of Oregon, has written one book called Preparing for APR Success, a step-by-step study guide. She has another one in the works. She's very busy. Mara, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you so much.
Those are a ton of accolades. I was running out of breath.
Oh, my goodness. Well, take another breath because we got lots more to talk about.
Okay, great. Well, listen, let's talk about your speaking business. Let's let the audience hear what it is that you're teaching people. How do you help them? What are some techniques that you teach them? And why is it you're doing what you're doing?
Well, I'm going to give a little bit of a long explanation about that.
Please do.
Number one, I love speaking because really it is an opportunity, especially for adults, to realize how much they already know. A good speaker trainer does more than just give information. They reach out in the structure of how they train or how they speak, and they let the adult learner recognize their own skills, their own strengths, and then by providing relevant information that relates to whatever that person does for a living, whether they're in sales, whether they're in management, whether they're a marketer, they go back to their desk with how-to tools, but most importantly, inspired by their own knowledge and creativity. They learn how to put what they know to use with some new tools. Excuse me, it's a little early in the morning for me. I've got a frog. Does that explain why I do this? Because I get so much more out of what the audiences give back than sometimes what I give them. Though what I specialize in is how-to tools, how to use your own personality, because there's extroverts and there's introverts, and there's different kinds of ways people learn. And this is another field of study for me, is brain-based learning. So not everyone is going to learn the exact same way. So we take that into consideration. I usually don't go into a speaking or training situation without prior research into the organization and the culture, what their problems are, what their needs are. I do an analysis prior to that so that, yes, the speech or the training may have the exact same title, but it is specific and unique to the audience that I'm working with. Does that make sense?
It does. So some of your how-to techniques, let's say you mentioned extroverts and introverts. What's an example of how you would help an introvert? Because introverts, of course, the word implies kind of shyness, doesn't like to be in front of people, keeps to themselves. So how would you help them?
Introverts love to write things down. So, in any training or any speech that I do, not only is there an interactive part, but I employ exercises lots of not just traditional icebreaker exercises, but much more in-depth exercises so that the introverts can write it down, write it down, write it down. And then you'll be surprised at the end of the talk, even if they don't share it with their neighbor, they will come up to me and we will have a separate conversation so that they're very, very comfortable. What is so important for a good speaker and a speaker who inspires is to make every single individual within the audience not only to feel unique, but to feel satisfied and, most importantly, comfortable. Because if the brain is not comfortable, you will not learn. You will not pick up that new, vital, how-to information.
True. Okay.
So for introverts, for everybody, we do stuff on paper, but the extroverts, they're going to shout it out loud when the opportunity comes. They can't wait to share. But the introverts are going to keep that piece of paper, and it's going to become really part of their work plan. And then very typically, they come up to me afterwards, and I budget for that time. That's off the clock time, but it's well worth it because I know I reach out to them. I do give everybody my email. They will email me. They will ask for more information. But again, it's within their comfort zone.
Okay.
The extroverts will just blurt it out and want to be validated. And that is also very, very important. No one wants to put forth information in a training or speaking, especially the way I do it in an interactive session, without being validated. That's just a golden rule of any decent speaker trainer.
Okay. Now, your content is centered around getting sales.
That's correct.
So the first thing we talked about was current marketing and public relations trends on getting sales. Now, are you going, when you're giving talks, for instance, on getting sales, are you using the current marketing, public relations in your talks? And if so, what is it you're saying? How are you helping people with that?
What I'm doing, especially in this era of social media, is showing people that, number one, you do not need to use all the tools available. You've got Pinterest, you've got Facebook, you've got Flickr, you've got LinkedIn, you've got, of course, 82,000 other ways, plus email, plus all the traditional techniques of traditional media, which is print, and then online media like the Huffington Post or Mashable or even the New York Times online. What is so important is that individuals learn to leverage what the tools and turn those tools into tactics for sales, to make the phone ring, the tools that they are comfortable with or already using, unless those tools no longer do what I call the job they're supposed to do. Every tool, every tactic should have what I call a job description. If that tool or tactic is not making the phone ring, is not bringing in sales leads, then it's time to reevaluate. But it does not mean, especially in this day of information overload, it does not mean that you have to use everything. What I teach is, how do you define your niche market? What tools and tactics is that audience or that target using? And then how do you take ownership of it? Over here at Woloshin Communications, we only use 3 social media tools, and primarily we really just use LinkedIn and Facebook, and we casually will use Pinterest. And that's it. We don't bother with the 18,000 other social media tools. We do not blog because it's not natural for our company. If we have something that's important that we want to share with people, we do put out an occasional newsletter with tips and tactics, which anyone can sign up for at Woloshin.com. And what we do is we teach people how to cherry pick what's really going to work. And sometimes the good old-fashioned techniques, which is why I also say I do grassroots relationship marketing, the good old-fashioned techniques do work best in the correct combination with social media. So a speech, a lecture, an event that asks your target to take a call to action step, but you're going to promote that using the tactic and tool that your target audience is most comfortable with. So it might be something boring and old-fashioned like a direct mailing, but it might also be a text followed by a Facebook campaign.
Are you doing anything with getting people in major media, press releases, business publications, that kind of thing?
I've been doing that for over 30 years.
Because I haven't heard you mention about that. Can you talk about that?
Sure. I love print media. And print media, sadly, I think in the next 5 to 7 years is going to dwindle down even further. There is an organization that I support that's called Social Media Journalists for Standards and Ethics, because they're trying to bring the traditions of print media, which is factual reporting, to the social media arena. However, there is nothing wrong, and even with social media, you still need to know how to write a press release, and most importantly, how to pitch that media person. From the time that media person either opens that email, and I'll give you a hint on how to specifically send an email to a journalist or an editor, or talks to you on the phone, you have 15 to 27 seconds to get their attention. So if you're emailing a reporter, that subject line is critically important. If you are talking to a reporter on the phone, the first 15 to 20 words that come out of your mouth are critically important. And they are what is known as the media hook. And you've got to grab their attention and grab them by the guts. Let me just give the listeners a really great resource. It's called copyblogger.com, and it has been put out by a group of fantastic journalists and writers. And if you want to know how to do a hook, how to write a headline, how to really capture attention, they have a fantastic archive of information that is extremely useful, and in my favorite world, it is free. And that's another thing that I really push in all my training and all my speeches is resources that are free. And I have a length of them about the length of my leg. My leg's not that long. I'm kind of a short lady. But I've got a pretty long list of free resources so that even if you are not a professional marketer or you're just breaking into sales, or you're just breaking into the publicity, public relations arena, there are tools and resources, libraries, all sorts of information. If you are a great self-studier, you can launch yourself. If you need a peer or a mentor, I can tell you where to go find one. You don't have to invest a ton of money to become a consummate professional. Make that phone ring, build that sales pipeline.
Okay, well, that's some great information, Mara. I appreciate that. Now, how can people get a hold of you for more information or to hear you speak?
They can go to my website, which is Woloshin.com, and what I love the best is shoot me an email, and it's my name, M-A-R-A, at Woloshin, W-O-L-O-S-H-I-N. And if you remember the ocean, you'll always remember Woloshin. Or give me a call. I pride myself in that I have a full-on staff here. I run a full-service boutique agency, but I answer my own phone. 503-310-4504. And if I can't talk to you right away, believe me, I will call you back, because one of the things you got to be, if you're going to build sales and you're going to build business, is you need to respond personally to people, because everyone is a different human being and has different needs, and frankly, sometimes very different, what I unfortunately need to call pain points, where their business is struggling, where sales are down, where they're not making the revenue that they made last year. That's really the best time to call.
Okay.
Or if you want some how-tos, that's a great time to call.
Well, fantastic, Mara. Thank you very much for pulling back the curtain and showing us what you're doing, giving us some tips on how to do some marketing for ourselves. That was great information.
Anytime.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.